Hi, welcome to this week's. My name's Paul. So this week was lots of experimenting. So a few weeks ago at the beginning of January, I said I wanted some of my goals for this year were to add in a bit more variety into the sort of landscapes that I'm painting. And a couple of ways I wanted to do that. One was to introduce maybe figures, people, buildings and animals into paintings that I do, and I do have a video on that describing some of the things I do on my Patreon page. If anybody's interested, there's in the description below there's a link, and then in that video I'm talking about sketching animals and sheep and some ideas for drawings and paintings that I want to try. This video is talking about colors and palettes. One of the other things I mentioned a few weeks ago was the palette that I normally use, which has 4 blues, a cadmium yellow, and sometimes a light phthalo green. And that palette of sort of 5 or 6 colors is good for spring and summer scenes, but it's not really suited to winter scenes, for example. So I wanted to develop this new palette that I could use for other seasons. Now, different people work in different ways, of course, and I'm not saying that the way I work is correct and the way other people work is wrong. I don't approach art in that way. It's just we all have different ideas and different approaches, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other. But the way I approach it is different. I have a limited palette, like I say, that I use for spring and summer, and this new palette that I'm developing for sort of winter scenes. But I'm not worried about local colors or a sort of naturalistic way of approaching painting where you're trying to reproduce the colors that you see in nature. I don't really do it that way. I just use the colors that I want, and everything's sort of coming out of my head. So this new palette, and you can see the final painting here, if we just sort of put aside the ideas whether or not the painting's any good or not, and just think about the colors of this new palette. The colors that I'm using, there's Windsor, for the sky, there's Windsor and Newton Neutral tint, and on top of that I have a Sennelier cerulean blue. The sort of horizon line is also the neutral tint, and you can see the differences. The neutral tint, when you add lots of water in, it becomes this grey with a very, very slight sort of purplish tint, but when you don't dilute it so much, it's almost black. The sort of turquoise color that I have in there is also Sennelier, and it's a cobalt green. And then that yellow is Sennelier yellow deep. So it's 4 colors. I might add in also, I'd like to see an orange with that cobalt green. I think it might be interesting. I think, I might be making this up, but I think Sennelier also do a cadmium yellow deep, which is more of an orange color. And being the sort of cadmium yellow, it'll be quite an opaque color, so you could put it down on top of other layers probably. And again, like I say, if I'm not making this up, I think I have a tube of that paint from way back in the early days when I first got started with watercolors. The tube is sealed up, so the paint should be fine, and I'd just like to see what it looks like with the sort of cobalt green as well. But anyway, this is how I sort of approach the idea of developing a new color palette. Like I said, it's different from other people who are maybe approaching it from a more naturalistic way of painting and trying to replicate colors that they see in nature. I'm approaching it as a slightly more abstract way of painting maybe, and it's all coming out of my head rather than directly from nature. Again, like I say, I'm not saying that way is better, it's just different. I don't really go with this is better and this is worse. It's all just different. But anyway, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. I hope that was maybe interesting or useful to somebody, just sort of my way of thinking about creating a palette. Again, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.